Hello, this is Steve Malone with CompsFX. Hope you're doing well today and you're getting some good trades. For those of y'all who trade the pound dollar, I think it's important that you make note of the certain levels that we're currently at as we come close to the end of the first half of January 2012. I've noted a couple of times in previous videos that the pound was setting a floor. And as you can see, today we came very close to hitting this previous low back over here, which is right around 52.70. Today we reached 52.78 and we're about to possibly break and go lower. So for those of y'all who trade the pound dollar, make note of some potential here in the coming days. Now again, we had a double top scenario here. The market pushed down and we've been bouncing around since about mid-November on this floor. Today we made a low. Now this is from a daily perspective, so this isn't something you're wanting to trade intraday. Just be aware of the potential direction of the pound dollar. Now currently the pound dollar has a negative bias in the marketplace. The BOE left the UK interest rates unchanged at 0.5%. Plus we've had some other economic news coming out of Great Britain that hasn't been all that great. As a matter of fact, today the industrial production numbers were down, worse than expected, and manufacturing production was worse than expected. Also, the estimated GDP was off, including the trade balance earlier in the week. So a lot of negative news surrounding the pound dollar right now. So there are some expectations to possibly break this floor. So let me make note of a few things as we look at this daily chart. First off, at the 52.70 mark, there are currently reported sell stops residing right below that with targets towards 52 and 51.25. As a matter of fact, today on CNBC World, there was a commentary about the pound dollar and the expectation to see it possibly push down to 148. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Be aware, too, that there's a barrier option sitting at 52.50, and typically when we have barrier options, which means that someone wants to defend that level, then the market tries to go and break it. So there's that potential push down below the 52.50 mark. Now, for those of y'all who look for a potential bounce to the upside, because we've had it before back in the October area right here where we took a low dip and then market bounced back up, there are resistance levels noted at 53.65 and at 154. Be aware that there are some buy stops above that on a potential break of 154, but right now the focus of attention is more on the downside. Let's step out and look at this as a weekly level. You can see that we've had a head and shoulders. This shoulder, the head, and another shoulder right over here. With a break to the downside, there's a potential to see it fall continuously all the way down, and some had even estimated possibly all the way down in the 142 level. I'm not so sure if we're going to get down that way at this point. I would be looking for a test of this low back in here, which brings us somewhere in the neighborhood of that 148 level. If we take a average look at this on those two lows right there, we're right about the 148 level. Now there's a lot of distance between where we're at to getting down to that level, and on top of that the 150 level will play a very significant barrier to be broken for the market to actually get below that. So be aware of where we're going here, and taking a look at a weekly perspective on the pound dollar, you can see that the market baseline is still making a move to the downside, and the green RSI price line, which tracks what price is doing, which shows the current market, is bounced off the trade signal line. The red line is pushing further down, and everything, including the volatility bands, are all pointing to the downside. So there's a possibility of a break here, and then we're going to step down. And I would, at this point, look at steps that are about every psychological level. From this point at 52.70 area, a break of that, we're looking at 52.50. Then we'll be looking at 52, then 51.50. So attempt to trade it from psychological level to psychological level. Go back in time and look at other levels here. Lows, for instance, we had a low right here. That low at that point was 49.35. Coming up to this bar, the low was 51.20 area. So as this potentially breaks the, let me put it right here, you see there's kind of a neckline right there. We're attempting to break this neckline. From this low to that low, there's the neckline and a possible break to the downside. Now, I mentioned earlier that I don't know if we're going to get all the way down into this level, because if you step out one more time and look at the monthly chart, you can see that we have higher lows and we're getting into a wedge pattern. So if I take a look at this from this low to that low, you can see that there's a pretty strong trend line that's going to have to be broken here. If I step back in on the weekly, you can see that a breakdown would put us right near that 51.25 area where the market was talking about looking for a potential target down. A break of the 51.50, 51.25 area, then we start seeing a push down to 150 and possibly on down to the 148 level. Well, folks, it's Dean Malone with Compass FX. Just be aware of what's going on with the pound right now. If there's continued negative bias on the pound, it's going to make a push down. Now, make note, before there's a push down, typically there's going to be a short-term little quick push to get short sellers into the market. Then the interbank market has a tendency to run back up, short squeeze those sellers before it actually makes its true push down. So if you take a look, we've gone down 1, 2, 3. I won't count that one. That's a doji. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've gone 8 weeks to the downside. Typically, when you go 5 to 8 bars, start looking for a retrace. So there's the chance that we get a retrace back up towards 54 and then into possibly close to 55 before we make the big move down to test the 51.50 mark. Well, this is my outlook on the pound dollar in the coming days and weeks. Just be aware of the negative economic events surrounding the pound in the event that there's some positive news that comes out in a balancing act between the Eurozone and Great Britain. We could possibly see a bounce back up. But as of right now, the focus of attention for most traders in the marketplace is to the downside on the pound dollar. Well, folks, I hope some of this information will help you out. Y'all make it a great day. Get some good trades. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.